Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine.
The freedom isn't free. Something's missing from that. It makes freedom into a commodity. And here, what I see in Kharkiv, Ukraine, is that the way of freedom is not free.
Joe. Little fucking Joe Lindsley.
Joe Lindsley is quickly becoming an American treasure in broadcasting.
Welcome to Ukraine Bank.
Russia and Ukraine traded retaliatory strikes over the weekend. What's been happening overnight and this morning there, Joseph?
Well, Bob, good afternoon from Kharkiv, 30 miles from the border with Russia, which the city that was Ukraine's second biggest city before the full-scale invasion. At the moment, we have air raid alarms. They just sounded about 20 minutes ago throughout the entire country due to the threat of jets over Russian airspace that could fire hypersonic missiles. Meanwhile, we had over the weekend reports that from both on the Russian side and Ukrainians that Ukraine was able to send drones to destroy or partially destroy an oil facility near St. Petersburg. And so, this is once again Ukrainians with the limited resources they have using ingenuity to do everything they can to cripple Russia's ability to attack. And often this does get, when it's talked about in the press, it's seen as retaliation. But it's, all of these things are parts of long-term strategy in order to achieve victory. And I don't think Ukrainians simply, like 2 days later, they're not reacting to what the Russians have done. But instead they are, it's a long-term effort to defeat the invaders. And by the same token, when something like that happens, Ukrainians hit something in Russian territory, which is very rare, actually, because they don't have the weapons to do so, and they don't have the blessing from the United States to do so. You still have a heavy feeling. Here I'm in Kharkiv, 30 miles from Russia, and so yesterday everyone was thinking, oh, what's going to happen? Is Russia going to unleash some hell on the city? That has not happened yet, although there have been many serious attacks here the past couple of weeks. And one thing is very clear to me in the past several days that I've been here in Kharkiv. The city is much more full of life than it was 1 year ago. People have returned, and despite the recent attacks, they haven't left. They haven't fled the city. And if the United States could send just one of its Patriot missile batteries, of which it has many, to Kharkiv, the city would be largely protected. And it would send a very clear message to Russia: you cannot touch this. And so we don't even have to get into the question of should the United States send offensive weapons to Ukraine, but at least start with the very simple thing of protecting the cities that are currently within Ukraine. And it sends a strange message if you only send Patriot missile batteries to protect, for example, Kyiv. It almost is agreeing to give up this huge territory in the east. And, the regular people here, and, as I was on the journey traveling to Kharkiv from Lviv and Kyiv, everyone says, oh, don't go there. It's scary and it's dangerous. And you have lots of apprehension. But then once you get here, you find an amazing courage because the people here keep living joyfully, even as we'll hear a little bit today. And that gives you such a sense of courage. And but so many things would be changed if the United States would simply take the small step of sending a Patriot missile battery here to Kharkiv and say, this city will be protected. Because right now, missiles actually, there's an alarm now. Usually missiles hit before the alarm. So you do feel a strange sense of peace when the air raid alarm begins. It's very strange psychology. But we're so close to Russia that at any moment, this city can be hit. And that's indeed what's happened. Meanwhile, we just had sort of disturbing reports that around Christmas time, the Russians were disrupting GPS signals in southern Sweden, in Lithuania, and Poland. And this is disturbing, obviously, for many reasons. But there's this place called the Suwalki Gap, and it's in Polish and Lithuanian territory. And it sits between Russia and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad on the Baltic Sea. Russia has this little foothold in Europe. It used to be part of Germany and Prussia, and Russia took it after World War II. And it's on the sea. It has a maritime border with Sweden. And this is not often talked about, but the Russians have been saying that they want to have direct access to Kaliningrad, which means they would have to have an incursion into Polish and Lithuanian territory. And so it's something to pay attention to. And if you have, Ukraine, a nation before the full-scale invasion of some 40 million people, Russia invaded. Sweden is a much smaller nation. Lithuania is a much smaller nation. And so these are things to pay attention to. And in fact, the foreign minister of Lithuania, Gabrielis Landsbergis, said the following today. He said, "Nobody knows the exact timeline of Russia's madness, but we know Ukraine is buying us time and paying for it with blood. If Ukraine wins, Russia's expansionism will be halted. If not, we will be wishing we had used the time Ukraine bought more efficiently."
Yeah. I'm looking at a text here, Joseph. God bless Ukraine and God bless our country. I wonder if Joseph Lindsley has considered traveling to Washington to passionately petition Congress and President Biden for defensive weapons to protect the Ukrainian people, freedom, and their country.
That's a good question, and many people have been asking that recently. And I from my old career at the Weekly Standard and Fox News and other places, I know many of those people, and I think the two cities where, those who support Ukraine really have to focus their efforts of persuasion are Washington, of course, but also Austin, Texas. Austin is, the people that left San Francisco, Silicon Valley, seeking freedom. They talk about freedom a lot. It's really, it's a center of innovation in America. It's a home to Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. Austin and many American conservatives who are quiet or oppose Ukraine are based there. And I think, while Chicago is a stronghold of support for Ukraine, the city of Austin and also Washington, D.C. are places where we do need to persuade people. So maybe so. I mean, I was just talking with a American volunteer the other day who said, he left Ukraine for a while. And he said, it's such a heaviness when you're outside of this country. He said, I don't recommend it because every moment you're gone, people, they wish to be back here. But maybe this is something worth considering. And I think, I was feeling that a bit around Christmas time, a little tired, and saying maybe I should just, go back to the U.S., go sit on a beach in Mexico. And instead, I brought myself from Western Ukraine all the way here to 30 miles from Russia. So despite my sort of maybe desire to leave for a little while, I came closer to the thick of it and to the city, Kharkiv, that has been so often attacked the past weeks. And I want to share with you a clip of Friday night here. Just imagine you're in an underground venue. There's a little bar in the front, and it opens up into a large room adorned with some local art, and it's packed with people. It's evening time, about 7 o'clock, 30 miles from Russia, snowy night. And in this room, there are soldiers, children, young people, old people, some sitting, some standing, a pile of coats at the entrance because no one's worried about anyone stealing anything. And everyone is singing together. There was a band from Lviv called Peri Ibati, which means dumpling and whip. And they go deep into their history and sort of play songs in a modern style. They have an album of the music of murdered poets, Ukrainian poets who were killed by the Soviets. And they traveled here to Kharkiv to sing the songs of Christmas, which Ukrainians celebrate until February. And in Western Ukraine, people held on to their traditions even during the hell of the Soviet times. And so much of that was destroyed here in the East. But since Russia's full-scale invasion, especially in a place like Kharkiv, where they almost have lost everything, people have really gone deep into their culture. And so we're going to hear in this clip, you can hear the people of Kharkiv, every one of which, every voice you'll hear in this little clip is a voice of someone who has been near a missile strike in the past 3 weeks or past 4 weeks. And so you can just imagine all the hell that they've gone through. And they're singing together a song about the birth of Christ here in Kharkiv, underground, 30 miles from Russia. So here's a little listen of it.
That's a very uplifting way to end our conversation today, Joseph. And you can imagine, as you say, civilians, soldiers, people of all ages, hundreds of them, with that kind of spirit, despite what's going on there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's something that gives you courage and strength. And, we played on Friday that music from Florence and the Machine. And she said, nothing else to do than to open up my arms and sing and dance. I'm free. And I saw a couple of days ago the American Navy SEAL veteran Jocko Willink, a great podcaster and motivational speaker. He posted on Twitter, the idea that freedom isn't free. And what I realized here in listening to that concert on Friday, that freedom isn't free. Something's missing from that. It makes freedom into a commodity. And here, what I see in Kharkiv, Ukraine, is that the way of freedom is not free. It's all about the way, the process, and it's not something we'll ever attain in a perfect way, but if we live with the free spirit, then we have freedom. And that's what these people here in Kharkiv, whether they're singing on the ground on Friday night or right now, the city continues, even at any moment as we could be hit. People go, and that's the idea of freedom, singing and dancing in the face of evil, no matter what.
What spirit. Joseph, thanks. We'll connect tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Що сказав?
Well, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?